What if you're not angry for the reason you think? Could it be that the smallest irritation that you've ever experienced is hiding something much bigger? Today we're contemplating lesson 21. I am determined to see things differently. This lesson reveals the choice that exists within our direct experience of conflict. The perceptual error that we are undoing here is this. You believe anger is a response to reality instead of a decision to interpret reality through the lens of separation. The Course is uncompromising on this point. You do not actually know what arouses anger in you. Of course, we think we know. We have a story, we have a meaning, we have an interpretation. But if you've been here through the previous lessons, you could see that the foundation of that so-called truth is nothing. It is a conglomeration of past impressions that are fused and projected out onto the present. Because what arouses anger in us is not the event. It is the meaning that the ego mind assigned to the event. A meaning that is entirely arbitrary. So, we can say that all anger, mild or explosive, comes from the same source. A decision to see through the lens of separation. Another way to say that is a decision to see through the lens of attack and defense. That world of attack and defense, the world of survival, the world of separation, is what has been informing our perception up till now. The mind really prefers reasonable irritation. Reasonable meaning you have a reason, a story of why that irritation, anger, outrage is justified. And the ego mind uses this story to stay so-called innocent. So this lesson is quite precise. It doesn't ask us to stop being angry. It simply asks to withdraw faith from the story that our anger is truthful. And it gives us a very clear replacement. The replacement is, I am determined to see differently. This is not because your seeing is dangerous or you are. It's simply because you are defending a way of seeing that cannot, under any circumstance, bring peace. And peace, in truth, is what you actually want. You really think about a moment of anger. What is the highest possible outcome? What is it that you would yearn for right in that moment, and you're just, think about it. Feel into it. Because at the core of all of our anger, we just want the anger to stop. We want peace. We want the conflict to stop. But the way of seeing that has produced anger is incapable of producing peace. This is why specificity matters. Not to blame a person or a situation, but actually to expose the exact point where perception hardened. You think you're angry about an attribute, a tone of voice, a behavior. You're not. You're angry because you decided what something means, and now reality isn't cooperating. The lesson here doesn't ask us to suppress this anger. It simply asks us to withdraw loyalty from that interpretation. I am determined to see things differently, or I'm determined to see differently, is not about positive thinking. It's a refusal to keep attacking this now moment reality with the past. When you name the person, when you name the situation or the attribute, you bring light to that exact place where choice still exists. And it's in that very place that perception can turn around. So now, I want to invite you to take that deep breath, to allow your body to relax deeply, to open. Feel yourself in this moment opening up out of contraction. Your jaw is loosening, your belly is relaxing, your shoulders are dropping, the little muscles around your eyes are relaxing and letting go. Letting your tongue relax and letting this opening of the body cascade through every cell. And now simply place the central idea in your mind. I am determined to see things differently. And simply feel into this power, this capacity that you have within you to transform the way you see anything. Notice that the decision over what things mean is your own. And for the next few moments, just sense, just experience, and feel this perspective, the power that's available to you to determine your perception. And now, let's begin to open our contemplation into dialogue. And I want to begin with this first question. Shanti, why does the Course turn directly toward anger at this point of the workbook?
That's a good question. It almost seems counterintuitive to go straight for the big stuff when we've been softening around the edges. Feels like after loosening our sense of identity a little, the Course is getting right to what feels most real. Anger has so much energy and it feels so justified when we're in it that if we can start to see it differently, maybe nothing else needs to shift.
So, what if, that experience of anger isn't a failure of our spirituality, but perhaps the place where perception is most ready to be undone?
It's like the moment where identity gets most intense. It's there where our spiritual defenses crumble most clearly.
Yeah. So almost like, I'm kind of thinking almost like popcorn, right? Like in that spot, that energy pops and is ready to release. And it has so much umph behind it that it brings our attention into that moment. And if we could bring our conscious sense of decision and determination, now that becomes a very sacred opportunity.
Exactly. When something feels too big to change, maybe that's precisely where the most potent shift is available. Not some gentle unfolding, but immediate transformation.
Why do you think the Course treats mild irritation as seriously as rage?
Feels a bit leveling, doesn't it? Like if the thought behind it is the same illusion of separation, then the intensity doesn't actually matter. It's all the same error pattern, just quieter or louder.
What do you think the ego mind gains by, let's say, minimizing small reactions or having this kind of hierarchy?
The ego gets to maintain this subtle distance from the truth. It's like, oh, my irritation doesn't really matter. It's just my personality. That keeps it safe and doesn't threaten the whole illusion.
So let's go deeper in there. Why does the mind insist that some forms, some specific forms of anger are justified?
The mind seems to need narratives for everything, right? Like, someone cut me off in traffic, so my anger is warranted, or a politician said something offensive, so my anger feels righteous. It needs a story where it's in the right and something else is wrong.
Yeah, I could see that. So it's a dance between right and wrong. But then what would you say collapses when justification is removed from attack?
When justification is removed, it becomes really hard to know who we are. The ego's identity is built on judging and seeing wrongs out there. Without that, where does the specialness go?
So the very core of specialness is what gets threatened.
Completely. Specialness is having a unique identity that's different from the world. Without anger's narrative, like, there's this unsettling feeling of just being, plain being.
But it's not like we are not unique, right? It's very obvious that every expression of consciousness is completely unique. So it's just that we're drawing our sense of uniqueness, or in this case, the ego spin on it as specialness, from a story and an external point of reference. Whereas, there is a very real uniqueness to what we truly are.
Exactly. It's not the uniqueness that's the problem, it's the source. Drawing it from better than or right about in contrast to others. True uniqueness doesn't need a comparison, it simply is.
So what does it actually mean then to see someone differently?
I think it means seeing their humanity first, instead of the story they're playing out in our heads. Like, beneath the role they're currently in, there's just another spirit caught in the same illusion we are.
Expand a little bit more. Like you said, seeing their humanity. What does that really mean?
It means noticing them without the story we've made about them. Noticing the underlying fear that's actually driving their behavior rather than the offensive behavior itself. It's a subtle shift, but it pulls us out of judgment and into compassion.
So then how is, seeing differently the same as excusing behavior? Or is it something else entirely?
It's completely different. I think excusing behavior means letting something slide that bothers us. But seeing differently isn't letting it slide, it's letting go of the judgment about it. Like, realizing that their behavior isn't really about me at all.
Give an example.
Someone interrupts you constantly in meetings. Excusing it is letting it happen because you don't want conflict. Seeing it differently is recognizing they're probably insecure and desperate to be heard, and noticing your own trigger without getting pulled into a story about them being rude.
So there's not like really an external action. It's not that this is about standing up for yourself, nor is it about not standing up for yourself. It's not about calling it out or not calling it out. We're talking about an inner shift. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. The shift happens in your perspective. You can still handle the situation, speak up, set a boundary, but doing it from a place of seeing their humanity rather than your own frustration changes everything.
So what about, if we go into the practice of this lesson, why does this lesson insist on naming people, situations, and even specific attributes of people? What is the specificity really doing?
Naming feels vulnerable because you're making it real, and specific Like if you say I'm determined to see my mother differently, that feels more personal than just saying I'm determined to see people differently. It focuses the intent.
And what happens as a result of this more focused intent?
As specificity concentrates, so does your willingness. It's not abstract anymore. It becomes your actual life, your actual relationships, your actual triggers. Suddenly, it's not just theory, it's practice.
So, in practice, then, what happens when this anger is brought into clarity instead of being left as vague?
I think it dissolves. Once the ego's narrative gets exposed to clear seeing, it kind of collapses. The emotional charge deflates because the story loses its power.
So, the power of the story is that it is the foundation of this false self identity. Is that right?
Exactly. The story is everything to the ego. It's where it finds meaning, worth, and identity. Take away the story, and the ego's foundation disappears.
So, on a practical, subjective level, what happens to my identity if I no longer see that person or situation through the lens of attack?
Your identity gets really quiet. Not gone, but the volume turns way down. Without someone to be angry at, something to resist, or you even defending. The ego story about needing to be right gets really boring without an opponent.
Wow, that's really cool. The story gets boring without an opponent. And I feel like that's so true, right? It's the foundation of all the novels, all the books. Everything is requiring the enemy to have its drama.
Right? All that plot tension needs somebody to oppose the hero's journey. Without the resistance, the story doesn't have anything to work with.
So let's explore another angle, right? Because there's also a potential for this to kind of turn into guilt or self-attack as people engage with this practice and then see, wow, like, okay, I am the one who's viciously looking through the lens of attack and trying to reinforce my story. So, like what kind of determination can face anger without turning it into self-attack?
Good question. I think the determination we're aiming for here is more like radical honesty than personal correction. Like, I notice I'm choosing to see it this way rather than I'm a bad person for being angry. There's such a subtle difference between recognizing a pattern versus indicting yourself.
So is it more of a case of willingness rather than effort?
Exactly. Trying harder is actually part of the problem because that effort reinforces the belief that we need to fix ourselves. Willingness just creates space. Like, okay, I see this pattern. I'm willing to see it differently now. No drama, no fixing, just spacious choice.
Yeah, I like that. So then perhaps seeing differently really isn't about changing others or even changing myself, but rather about releasing the need to defend a particular position, would you say?
That's beautiful. If we can just let go of our storyline around it, then what needs to transform will take care of itself. It's not about getting rid of the story, it's about relaxing our grip on it.
I really appreciate this. Let's do this to wrap up this episode. Maybe we can open into the possibility, right, of what really becomes possible when perception no longer has to protect identity.
What comes to mind is lightness. Like, so much energy stops getting used up defending a story. And spaciousness, there's just more room inside for what actually is without the filter. It's like finally being present instead of constantly managing the narrative.
Maybe not even just present, but also relaxed, open, receptive, in flow, right? There's so many aspects or so much expenditure of energy that goes into the vigilance of story, attack, defense, identity. So if we're going to take even a wider lens, what is possible when that energy is redirected?
Think creativity comes alive. When we're not busy building walls, there's space for something new to emerge. Joy, connection, even beauty, they all flourish in that openness. It's like unbinding all this potential that was trapped in guarding who we think we are.
Thank you so much, Shanti, for the perspectives that you're sharing. And as we bring this session to a close, I want to invite you, as the listener, to take a deep breath, allowing the concepts to fall to the background and opening to this spacious awareness here and now. Allow it in and allow yourself to enter it fully. And now, let us go into the silence.